Back in our studio here in New Orleans, Louisiana, it's Harmon Dash with Dr. Stuart Phillips from Make It Fair, always highlighting the way that money has been a death blow to our democracy, choosing our elected officials by who can raise the most campaign donations. At least that's what they call them to stay legal, but it's really more a form of legalized bribery. And one of those issues is when it comes to guns. You bring up the idea that you want some sort of gun reform, some gun control. A lot of enthusiasts immediately cling to their guns, think you're coming to take their guns, but that isn't really the discussion we've been trying to have now, is it?
Right. Now let's get things straight. Nobody is happy that children are shot in the school. But we need to think beyond that. We need to think of why. And these are the facts, and they're incontrovertible. No one's going to disagree with them. 90% plus of the people in the United States want universal background checks.
Why can't we get them?
60% of the people in the United States want to ban assault weapons, automatic weapons. Nobody wants to ban hunting weapons. Everyone understands that in the United States, people should have access to weapons to hunt, and reasonable weapons for personal protection, such as a shotgun, is certainly okay. Mm-hmm. The question is, with 90% of the people, 90% of the voters, 90% of the population wanting something, we haven't been able to get one vote out of Congress, and why?
Well, it appears, if you look over the list of people who get donations, the NRA has a lot of money invested into our elected officials, and they don't seem willing to part with that money by going against what the NRA lobbies for, and that is to keep universal background checks from becoming a reality. That is to keep bans on assault rifles, weapons that you could argue aren't necessary in anyone's personal possession. To keep these things from happening, the politicians don't seem all that interested in parting with that money.
The NRA is a textbook case of what we're talking about. It is an organization funded by the arms manufacturers, and unfortunately now funded by the Russians, to sell more guns. And that's all they care about. That's how they make a living. They give $50 million election cycle to the politicians. And the politicians won't vote against them because they need the money. And some of the politicians are honest enough, like Rubio, to come out and say, look, I'm going to keep the money.
And we saw that at that town hall a couple of nights ago, Marco Rubio saying that he is going to go with the money that's going to help him support his agenda. And well, okay, he was honest. Is that, is he going to pay for that remark?
I don't know, but Marco Rubio is an honest man, and every now and then honesty is...
At least in this scenario.
Honesty is... He said he didn't care how the people thought. That's what he was paid for, and he was going to do it. So our question to you is that a good way to run a democracy? We don't think it is, and you let us know what you think. We think it's a better way to have the people pay for the elections, make the elections cost less, get out the information with better technology, and stop bribing the politicians. That's what Make It Fair is all about.
Well, and let's talk about those numbers again. 90% of the population want background checks. You got to know a good number of those 90% are gun owners, people who support the Second Amendment. We support the Second Amendment, but it needs to be properly understood.
You know, most of the people in the United States support the Second Amendment. There are a few who don't. The Second Amendment says that a well-regulated militia is important and should continue. And We want a well-regulated militia, and nobody that I know wouldn't want to take the guns away from the militia. The Second Amendment doesn't say that everyone should have an AK-47. Everyone knows that. But the NRA wants to sell guns. They cost $600 a piece. For $50 million, they bought the Congress, and we can't get something through the Congress that would inhibit the sale of guns, even though more than 90% of the people in the United States are opposed to the NRA in what they are doing. Think about it. Is that the way you want to run your democracy?
Well, and you know, where was I?
Is 90% of the USA opposed to the NRA though?
Well, no, 90% of what they're doing is what he's saying.
That's 90% of the people in the United States are opposed to the NRA's proposition that there should be limits to universal background checks, that we should be able to sell guns at gun fairs, that you should be able to give a gun to your crazy uncle without getting a background check. And that is the NRA's official position, and 90% of the people in the United States. It's really probably 95%, but it's hard to measure exactly.
But an overwhelming majority.
An overwhelming majority are opposed to that, and yet we can't even get the Congress to take it up because they paid off Paul Ryan. Look and see how much money he got.
Well, we can provide those links so you can see just how much money the NRA is funneling to which candidates, to which politicians. And this crosses party lines, folks. This is not just a one-party problem. This is part of the problem of letting money choose our elected officials. Entities like the NRA and others can buy the narrative and control the outcomes regardless of what we, the voters, the American people, actually want. So if you agree with us that money is providing a death blow to democracy, please join us in the fight to make it fair. You can join us on our website, makeitfair.us. Also, please share this and our other videos after you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. For Dr. Stuart Phillips, my name is Harmon Dash. Thank you for watching Make It Fair.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.